Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of Recruit Military Live. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the most powerful transition tools available to service members, SkillBridge, and how it's helping turn military experience into meaningful civilian careers. As always, my name is Gabby Flores, and I am joined by my amazing co-host, Raul Torres. How's it going, Raul?
Hey, Gabby, doing well. How you doing today?
Fantastic. You know, it's a beautiful 70 degrees here in like the Phoenix area, which is rare. We're having like a nice crisp cold front. I'll take that before we hit the triple digits again, because we hit triple digits in February. Random. So I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Enjoy while you can. We're over here overcast, waiting for rain. It's like tornado watch, but I don't know. It's like wanting to rain, but it's not. But hey, today we have a special one for you guys. We're joined by two incredible guests, a current SkillBridge intern who is navigating the transition in real time, and the manager of RecruitMilitary SkillBridge Program, who helps connect service members with these opportunities every day. Our first guest is a communications fellow with RecruitMilitary SkillBridge Program and recently served as the public affairs and communications superintendent for the 375th Air Mobility Wing at Scott Air Force Base, leading a 19-member team supporting more than 27,000 airmen and families. During his 20-year Air Force career, he also served as a senior Air Force spokesman in Kuwait following the Afghanistan withdrawal. His work earned 217 international news headlines and established him as a trusted voice in high-pressure environments. In 2020, he was recognized as the top Air Force public affairs and communications professional among more than 2,100 members. He holds an APR plus M certification, an MBA with a public relations focus, and a Bachelor of Science. Throughout his career, David has remained passionate about advancing truth through clear and effective communication. Outside of work, he's a husband, father of two toddler boys, and a recovering scratch golfer still chasing his comeback season. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to David Salanitri. David, welcome. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Raul. Thanks for the warm welcome, Gabby. Good to see you both. Pleasure to be here talking to two people I'm a fan of, talking about an organization I've been a big fan of well before I really got going with SkillBridge. So just really excited to hopefully pay it forward, and maybe you'll be able to add a little value, just can make things just 1% better for somebody. That'd be great today.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, David. We're excited to have you. Our next guest served as a U.S. Army Field Artillery Officer from 1997 until his retirement in 2016. His service includes a total of 4 combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, along with service in Europe and South Korea. In 2016, he used a DoD SkillBridge program to transition to his civilian career. And since retiring, he has worked in manufacturing, sales, the U.S. Army TAP office on Fort Drum, and now has the DoD SkillBridge Program Manager for RecruitMilitary. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in giving a warm welcome to our very own Lucas Connolly. What's going on, Lucas?
Welcome,
Good
Lucas.
Morning.
Gabby, Raul, great to be here. Dave, great to see you again. Unique opportunity and an honor to be here on the show.
This is going to be a great one, and I'm super excited to just roll straight into this because it's rare that we get the transitioning service member experience and get to really tell that story live. We can tell the success stories, but having Lucas here to explain what the DoD program, SkillBridge program is, and then David to actually get that real-time experience and that storytelling is so valuable. So jumping right into it, David, can you walk us through your military background just a little bit, and maybe what pursued you, how you first heard about SkillBridge, what allowed you to pursue this opportunity that you're currently in?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been in Air Force 20 years and 16 days when everything is said and done, but who's counting? And that entire time I was a public affairs airman. So I started off as a journalist working on the base newspaper with the Baghdad, where I did media operations, transitioned to more of a multimedia journalist, so a little photography. And then I really got into the greater public relation aspect of public affairs. So the strategic communication element of it, the last maybe 5 or 6 years. of service, where I was deployed and really doing a lot of, really media engagement. And during that deployment, while to leave my wife and 11-month-old son, and my wife was 6 weeks pregnant with my current 2.5-year-old. While that was heartbreaking, one of the upsides to that deployment was that I did a John Maxwell study. It was all about your purpose. And during that time, that was about 4 years ago. I knew retirement was, that my tunnel was getting a little closer, a little shorter. I could see that light. I wanted to really figure out what my purpose was professionally. I knew what it was personally. I wanted to figure out what it was professionally. And throughout the deployment, I really discovered it. I found it was really advancing truth, kind of like what Raul mentioned, in my intro there. And I want to be able to do that on the outside when I'm retired. So a lot of my last 2 years has been spent deliberately focused on this next chapter being something where I can use my gifts and talents, but really I want to enjoy showing up to work. I've had that throughout a lot of my Air Force career, maybe not all of it, but a lot of it. And I really wanted that on the outside for this next chapter, because I knew I'd be a better husband, father, friend, son, all those things if I enjoy showing up to work every day. So that's a little bit about like where I've been. And you had a second part to that question, Gabby. Could you remind me?
Oh, just how you came across the SkillBridge opportunity, how you heard about it, and it brought you here. So we'd love to hear where that first spark initiated.
So being like a deliberate planner, I had high expectations when I wanted this next chapter to be. So about 2 years out from retirement, I started to attend some of these informational sessions, a little bit with Whitney Ortiz of your team. I did some base classes as well, and really kind of I connected with a lot of people who were from RecruitMilitary, because you guys were really helping the unknown be known for those of us who are transitioning and maybe have been in the Air Force and military since, barely old enough to drive. And now we're, bald adults and trying to figure out what this next chapter looks like.
I still got a little going on. Okay.
You guys, yeah. You're fighting a good fight. You're winning that fight. I, on the other hand, have been losing this fight since 21 years old. So I connected with Lucas Connolly, on LinkedIn, and really just kind of, everyone I would talk to from RecruitMilitary, they were cut from a similar cloth. Like, there are good people who wanted to see veterans, our spouses, those who are transitioning succeed. So I couldn't help but to gravitate towards that. So when I was getting closer to actually starting the SkillBridge process, I talked to a lot of different organizations, and, by the grace of God, I was able to get a job offer right before Christmas. And so that allowed for me to be able to figure out with SkillBridge, what do I want this to look like? And for me, I wanted to be able to add value to an organization. If I'm spending time doing this, I want to be effective. I want to be able to translate my skills more effectively to the outside. So I don't want to talk military jargon. Like, in the military, if we say I work communications, everyone thinks you work on computers or IT or cyber. Yeah. But if you say that to the other 99% of Americans in corporate world, if you say you work communications, they think you do public relations. So during my time with like informational calls, but working for the RecruitMilitary comms team, I've been able to kind of understand just, how much I don't know, but also be able to just speak the language in a more effective manner. And honestly, I want to be able to take a breath a little bit, like I just did. I want to be able to pick up my sons from school. I want to be able to, just make my wife breakfast in the morning. Those things I haven't been able to do for so long. And RecruitMilitary, they say they're a family. They really are. They give us the opportunity and the bandwidth to have our cake and eat it, to be effective, to learn, but to also be able to decompress from, what's been a sprint of 2 decades of service.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because that's something that I tell, my counterparts or a lot of service members that are in that transition process, is that, everyone thinks about the benefits and the paycheck. And yes, that is important to survive on, but that work-life balance, what we're all kind of really missing in the military, because you don't really have a choice. If you're told to be gone for 12 months, you're gone. If you're told to show up at 05 and you're coming home at 1900, that's the life, my guy. That's what you signed up for. But, transitioning from that to I don't have to be at work till 8 and, or just I work from home now. It can be a little shell shocking. So thank you for pointing out that particular part of the transition process. And you actually just answered a bunch of our questions on, that timeliness when you actually started to look at that transition timeline for you. You started what we love to hear 2 years out from that retirement date. That's, plenty of time. And in that time gave you all the options, right? That you then had even more time to decide what you wanted to get into. I think one question we would love to know is, during your transition process, and even maybe with SkillBridge, what has been the most surprising during this whole process for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's been a couple of things that have caught me off guard a little bit throughout transition. The other, I thought I would never be the guy who would go to the gym wearing Air Force PT shorts. That was just for a bunch of boomers. But I did it yesterday. I went to my civilian gym in Air Force PT shorts, and I was a little bit proud. I was kind of proud of it. That shocked me. But that is illustrative of the fact that that's been part of my identity for 20 years. Whether I really thought it was or knew it was or not, it really has been part of my identity. So being able to see, that the Vietnam veteran at downtown and go up to him who was wearing that hat and say, "Hey, thanks for your service," and just say thanks for your service. And I'm actually, about to retire myself, and just strike up that camaraderie. One of the RecruitMilitary folks that I talked to about 2 years ago always talked about, when you retire or separate, you really got to find that tribe. And you could hear something 1,000 times, but until you experience it, you really don't fully grasp what that may mean. Because we have always had our tribe when we PCS. 2 or 3 people when you're going to a base. Even if you're going to a place you've never been, you still know a couple of people there probably. That wasn't my case now that I'm right outside Charlotte. Kind of just went here on, I don't want to say on a whim, but went here, on an act of faith, not knowing anybody. So that's kind of caught me off guard. Is this really, when they say find your tribe, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, exactly. That pride definitely continues. And like you mentioned, and you're this, 20 plus years of service for you. So that's a huge chunk of your life, of your adulthood, where you've been used to a certain way of life, a certain standard, a certain type of people. And when you're removed from that, and yes, you have all this great stuff now you get to experience, but you're also like, I kind of miss, throwing on this PT gear. I literally, okay, David, there's no judgment. I went to 29 Palms, one of our Marine Corps bases, and went into a PX and bought new green on green sweats because I miss them so much. And anyone who's worn those green on green sweats will tell you they are the most comfortable things in the world. So I feel like just having that on and just like lounging around the house, it just brings it all back, and it's just like a sense of comfort. So thank you for explaining that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I want to dive more into the administrative side of SkillBridge. So for you, Lucas, for those that may not be familiar, can you break down what now the DoW SkillBridge program is? Because maybe for some individuals listening and watching right now, this is the first time they're hearing about it, which is a travesty, but we're glad you're here. We're glad you're listening. What is SkillBridge?
Well, first of all, mad respect to anybody that still fits into their PT gear. So I'll just say that much. I have it.
You better still fit, David. You only been out for a few months.
There's transitions, and then there's transitions. So the DoD SkillBridge program is a unique, amazing program. It's been around since about 2008, and very, very widely misunderstood, if known at all, until around 2012, 2014 era, where it really kind of picked up. The program essentially is an opportunity for transitioning service members within their last 180 days of service to participate in an industry internship, apprenticeship, or otherwise training opportunity, which is approved by the Department of Defense. And the Department of Defense website, the skillbridge.osd website, serves as a repository for that long list of opportunities. What it means is essentially you can stop going with the approval of your chain of command, right? And the proper administrative steps followed. You stop going to PT, stop showing up for work, stop shaving, stop cranking that ponytail back, let the hair down, relax a little bit, show up to that civilian employer, in person, remote, what have you. And the intent there is for you to work for that employer as if you're a new hire, and train for the job that you're hoping to transition into, demonstrate your value to that employer, to solidify their decision to take a chance on you and hire you, and God willing, convert to a full-time employee, and start your new career as a civilian.
Heck yeah. And so what types, for those who kind of have no idea of like what type of opportunities SkillBridge presents, what opportunities are out there? Examples like from what industries and what types of programs, what employers?
Well, enterprise-wide, the SkillBridge program, which goes across all branches of service. The Army has its own very, very similar, almost identical program called CSP, Career Skills Program. And those CSP opportunities are typically focused on local employers, Fayetteville, Watertown, New York, Hopkinsville, things like that, right outside of the military bases. So they may not be listed on the SkillBridge website. But as far as the spectrum of employment takes you from the top to the bottom to the top, there's something there. If you want to do auto body, you want to be an analyst, you want to work in banking, manufacturing, driving, law enforcement, you name it. There's over 4,000 employers currently authorized under SkillBridge. There's an additional 183 authorized under Army CSP, which again is almost identical. So you're looking close to the range of 5,000 employers, multiple opportunities per UBS Bank, for example. They're looking for everybody from loan officers to investment bankers, IT analysts, software developers. I know a company that's looking for truck drivers, who are looking for logistics managers, warehouse managers, project coordinators, you name it, it's out there. No degree, there's low barrier to entry, low experience required jobs. Got a master's degree? There's companies out there that want to talk to you too. Technician, Lear, Siegler, General Dynamics, they both have opportunities. I mean, military industrial complex, tech companies, computer companies, you name it. If you can think it, it's probably out there somewhere.
That's phenomenal. So there's definitely something out there for everyone, no matter what career field either you're wanting to continue in or transition into. We love to hear that. Now, when it comes to the SkillBridge program, from what I understand, it's not everyone that applies gets in, correct? You still have to be chosen by that specific employer. So what would you say, what would you recommend for those applying for this program? How can they stand out? How can they stand out amidst all the other service members that are also applying? Well,
first and foremost, make sure your chain of command supports you, or else it's going to be a
done deal from the start.
It's going to be a lost cause. When you're applying for one of these SkillBridge opportunities, these employers are going to treat you as if you were applying for a full-time role. They want to see a good resume. They want to have a good performance at an interview, and they're going to kind of measure you by the same measuring stick that they apply to their full-time employees. So treat it seriously. If someone schedules an interview with you and it's an in-person interview, you show up in a suit and tie, show up prepared, have that 30-second elevator pitch, prepared answers for your questions, come rehearsed, come ready to prove that you're ready on day one, should they desire to hire you, to impress them and deliver results for them. And lean in early, right? You have to go through the process of getting all that paperwork signed and approved by your command. Then you've got to interview for these opportunities. And just because you interview doesn't mean the employer is going to want you. This is a competitive marketplace. So if it's January and you're getting out in June, you either need to hurry up or you're not going to make it. 240, 270 days out from your ETS date, it's a good time to really start looking at SkillBridge opportunities in earnest and prepare for it. This is not a gimme. It is not an entitlement. Your command can say no. The employer can say no.
Or you can take a page out of David's transition book and start 2 years. You know, the earlier, it's never too early to start. As soon as you join, start thinking about how you want to transition, how you want that transition to look like. And
chestnut checkers.
Exactly. And we actually do have a question really quick. I don't know if you'd be able to answer this. Speaking about the U.S. Army CSP program, we do have one that a LinkedIn member, Antonia, that wanted to ask if you could share if an employer would need to establish a general affiliation agreement with SkillBridge to sponsor potential candidates. Seeing that Fort Campbell CSP office has closed, so she's unable to get that answer specifically. But if you happen to have that answer, Lucas, as the SME for DoD.
Okay, so Army CSP program does still exist. The local CSP coordinator's position, right? That individual whose job it was to be the the advocate for the service member and filling out the paperwork and things of that nature, and information conduit between the employers and the service member. Some of those positions, unfortunately, due to contract changes, have been eliminated. The function, the program itself still exists. So there should be other people within that transition office who have been tapped on the shoulder to take care of that. In order for an employer to be a Fort Campbell CSP, they have to go through the MOU process at Fort Campbell. And I don't want to speak to that, but generally speaking, it's a memorandum of understanding between the employer and the Garrison Command that they're going to provide a policy compliant transition training opportunity to the service member. So the program hasn't gone away. That person may not be there anymore. I can assure you that Career Skills Program in the Army is still alive and well. And they've got 183 active employment providers.
Amazing. Thank you. We hope that helps, Antonia. Transitioning back to the DoD SkillBridge program, from an employer's perspective, why do you think SkillBridge is such a valuable pipeline for talent for them?
SkillBridge has to be treated by employers from a mildly different perspective. Many are treating SkillBridge as a recruiting tool when that's not exactly the case. It's more like a 90-degree training pipeline that allows you to take experienced folks that have comparable experience, comparable qualifications to what you're seeking in a full-time employee and get them trained up on how you do it. All right. It's one thing to be a diesel power plant mechanic. It's another thing to know how Caterpillar manages their equipment, right? And that 90 to 120 day or even 60-day SkillBridge opportunity can be that transition. It lowers the risk threshold for the employer. Some like to say try before you buy, right? It also gives that service member some time to grow, discover, and learn. So if they're looking to fill roles for which they have evergreen opportunities, say we know we hire on average X number of power plant maintainers every year. SkillBridge it's an evergreen opportunity. It's a year-round pipeline, and if you've got really great locations, if you're looking for folks within 50 miles of a military installation, that's low-hanging fruit.
Absolutely, and one thing I kind of want to transition and talk about is, I think something that every service member, even military spouses, deal with, and that's with the myths and then the mindset of the whole transition process, right? And so, David, I want to kick this to you. Maybe from your experience, especially, in the middle of your transition process, what is one common misconception about transitioning out of the military, out of service, that you would like to change? You would want to give a shout out to all your buddies out there, like, hey, this ain't how it really is on the outside.
Yeah. So I'd say like a misconception / mystery maybe would be, I've heard this phrase for way too long, the power of networking. Network, use LinkedIn. And I had no idea what it meant. It just that phrase reeked of like dudes with cell phone holsters and beepers. Like, what does this mean? Like it's a mystery. What does networking mean? How do you actually like make that add? How do you monetize that? How do you have it add value? And I would say like to anyone who's been in there for the military for like 4 years, even if it's like you're E3, E4, you network already. Like, is there not, as an E4, I had friends in the IT shop, I had friends in the cops squadron. Like, and when I need something, I'm like, hey brother, hey sister, could you hook a brother up? That's networking. Now you do that on a different platform called LinkedIn. You do it by showing up to coffee sessions with folks. I did 70 plus like informational interviews. That was networking. That was just cold calling people or cold messaging people on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm about to be a veteran. I've been in X amount of time. Like, this is my background. Would you be willing to like jump on a Teams call with me? That's networking. And, we do that with our boss. We do that with people who like are, with teammates, all the time in active duty service. Like, that's all it is. And how you add that, how that adds value, how does that actually lead to something? It's simply like, someone said one of these calls, I want someone who's competent, who is who has high integrity. So far sounds like, in the Air Force, we have integrity first, excellence in all we do, or two of our core values. And then lastly, like are you someone I like? Do I want to spend 8 hours with you a day? And that, there's only so much you can control there, but that's what they're feeling out on some of these calls. And that then, if you kind of check those boxes when an opportunity comes up 8 months from now, because you're working 18 months, out, or a year out, they're going to remember, Gabby, she was so smart in this, and she's a Marine, she's a high caliber person, and she's fun to talk to. Let me hit her up. She's a perfect fit for this role. Like, that's what it is. Let me demystify it to all these folks, who are active duty like myself, who had no idea what is networking. Why does it sound? It's already what you do on the top 3, or whatever kind of professional orgs you have on base. You already do it. It's just in a different platform now.
I was gonna add. I really do like how you frame that, David. You're already doing it, right? It's just a different way of doing it. Obviously, different people. Like, you kind of get overwhelmed maybe thinking about like networking through LinkedIn, because you're usually maybe driving to those who you want to speak to while you're still in active duty. So I like that you frame it that way. And I will add my own misconception transitioning out. I thought 6 months was okay. And it turns out I'm hearing you started 2 years out. I'm like, why didn't that pop up in my mind? 6 months, I felt like I was getting after it aggressively for 6 months till I made it happen, when I could have maybe, 2 years, year and a half, year out, been passively doing things to kind of build that base that I needed to fully understand what transitioning successfully meant. So if you're out there listening, man, it's never too early. I know you were joking about it, Gabby. If you're doing 4 years, hey, maybe start thinking ahead. I'm not saying 4 years ahead, but wow, just 2 years out would have saved me so much sleepless nights trying to figure things out.
Yeah, and if I can throw something in there with what David said, there's a little bit of backstory on David. So David actually didn't apply to be a marketing intern. He applied to a different program at RecruitMilitary. And then, of course, I do my diligence. I jumped in his LinkedIn profile. I looked at his LinkedIn content. I looked at what he posts, the picture, what he shares, what he likes, what he's communicating. And after about 15 minutes of looking at his LinkedIn content and activity, I called Kelly and I said, hey, do you want a marketing intern? Because I got a guy that applied for this other internship, but that's not the role for him. He should be a marketing intern. And that was a very quick, very positive conversation that happened. And this was before we even talked to David, just because of his presence on LinkedIn. If you are not using LinkedIn to network a year out, you're running your next fitness test with no shoes on. Can you do it? Probably. Will it be painful? You bet.
And there's so many things that you all have said that are just golden nuggets of information. David, Raul, you mentioned, the timeliness, and also not only timeliness of, 2 years out, 1 year out, 6 months out, but also everyone's transition story is different. So I was fully with child when I was transitioning out of the Marine Corps. And my last 3 months, I was on maternity leave. So I really needed to boot, scoot, and boogie all that time while fully pregnant before, those last 3 months, or those last 3 months of service when I was going to be out of office with the newborn. So, my timeline looks completely different than someone else's. So really take into consideration, where we're not joking when we say start as early as you want. And then David, you mentioning, I think, and we've talked about this in a few of our episodes in the past, that informational interview. A lot of people don't even know that that's something that they can do, is really just, like you said, cold call, cold emails, cold message on LinkedIn, wherever it is, reach out to these employers, these hiring managers, just to get information about how things are run in that industry, within that office, within that organization, just so that you can go into an actual interview when that time comes, fully prepared and having your ducks in a row, and that will come off so well to that employer, will truly make a difference.
Can I add on to that a little bit,
Yeah.
Gabby? So like one of the things I noticed like throughout the last 2 years is people want to help. People would love to help a veteran or service member succeed and not be a negative statistic on the outside. So don't feel like you have to do this in a box. So like I mentioned, I did a lot of those informational interviews through LinkedIn. But I also got in and registered with American Corporate Partnership, ACP. And they are a great organization. I know we do some work with them with RecruitMilitary. I think I'm about to be, in 2 months, I'll be a graduate alumni of the program. But what they do is they partner you with a mentor on the outside who is maybe doing something that you want to do, or a lot of times they're actually that person's boss's boss, so they have decades of experience. They know what to look for hiring a person, and they're going to help you talk to the right people. They're going to help you translate your experience, maybe tweak the resume, what to prepare for, let you know like ground truth, what it's really like in that role. And that is just value added. It's free 99, free 99,
Yes.
My favorite price. Why not do it? That was a big part of what helped me, be deliberately successful. They helped me, he told me when I visited Charlotte, because I thought this is a place my wife and I would like to be. He said, I want you to drive through that skyline, drive through that downtown, point at the biggest building or one of the biggest buildings and say, there's an office in that building for me. I did that, and I pointed at the skyline. In about a month, I'll be starting at the second tallest building in Charlotte, and it gets on the 30th plus floor. It turns out there was an office in that building or a desk for me. But he taught me how to be able to visualize success, and I just can't say enough good things about ACP, but also like just the village of people who want you to succeed. But you have to raise your hand, shoot a message, do your part. It's not going to just come to you. You have to outwork somebody, and we know how to work hard, in the service. So. Yeah.
1000%. Thank you for mentioning them. I know Raul has also gone through the ACP program. I'm trying to. I keep trying to start it, and then my procrastination is just terrible. But there's so many amazing stories with our partner ACP. They're doing fantastic things, and that just goes to further credit the power of networking, mentorship, and it's exactly what you said, David. You need to reach out though. Like you have so many opportunities, so many resources, so many free programs out there to assist you for that transition process to not be so stressful. They're out there. You just got to reach out and ask for that help. And as we wrap up here, I would love to get, some final words of wisdom. David, will go to you when it comes to, fellow service members that are going through that transition process. What are some great words of advice, more than you've already given, but some great words of advice that you have for them?
Yeah. I'd say, one of the things I talked about at my retirement was deliberately dream big. My mom, she's a big dreamer. She's done some crazy things. And my dad, he was first generation Italian immigrant. Grandfather went through Ellis Island, World War II, all that good stuff. And so between the two of them, they taught me how to deliberately dream big, work hard. So I'd say this next chapter of life can be what you want it to be. Specifically, if you plan out, things aren't just going to happen by, likely won't happen just by accident. But if you take advantage of all these programs out there and you get a good mentor, you get in with RecruitMilitaries like Whitney Ortiz and crafting and tailoring that resume, you're posturing yourself for success. I know if one of these classes can make me 1% better, I'm going to take it because I want to like what I do on the outside. I had a list of, I had a vision board, and you can see this. I have it on my LinkedIn. One of my LTs had us do this. And on that vision board, I have some really specific things that I will now have. I'm checking the box, a year and a half later on this transition because I planned out and I utilized the resources around me. So, when you dream big, also think about what matters to you. The organization I'm going to be working for in less than a month, they're a top 10 bank in the U.S. And they are a purpose-driven organization. Purpose matters to me, and I know that's what I want on the outside. And I'm marrying that up. So I would encourage you use that time to really figure out what matters and what maybe you think matters, but maybe it doesn't so much. That requires time.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. And Lucas, how about yourself? Some words of wisdom, especially speaking to, transitioning service members every day. What you got for them?
All right, I'm going to give you some practical advice here. If you're about 6 months out from service, what most people will do when they suddenly realize, I'm out in 6 months. Oh, plus I'm going to have 60 days of terminal leave. Plus I got 15 days of permissive TDY. Oh my God, I got like 45 days to find a job. And they jump on a website. They do some searching. They come up with a list of 3,000 or 4,000 jobs, and they start clicking apply. And then they sit and wait for the phone to ring. And the phone never rings, and they're frustrated. But nobody's going to hire you for a job and keep it open for you for 6 months. It's on a 2-week cycle. They want to interview you on Friday and start you 2 Mondays later. So let's flip that upside down. Let's toss that idea out the window, okay? First and foremost, find an industry, energy, education, tech, medical, a field, an industry that you can align with. Hey, I'd really like to work in oil and gas. I'd like to work in energy. I really love cars. I'd like to work in the automotive industry. I'm really book smart. I love going to classes. I think I'd like to work in education. Choose a field. Once you've identified what field you might want to be a part of, make a list of 10 companies or organizations that you would love to work for. And then start talking to people that work for those organizations. 2 informational interviews a week for 6 months. You'll have about 50 of them under your belt by the time you ETS. 80% of all jobs, of all job offers, are extended by way of networking. If you're not networking, you are deliberately placing yourself in the minority. Don't do it. Start macro, choose a field, find a company, talk to a human being, and work your way into a job that way. That's all I got.
Ditto. I did that. Do that.
It worked for me. I did that. Do it, you guys. He's not lying. Facts. Great facts right there. Raul, how about yourself from your experience, with transitioning out of the Marine Corps, with ACP, with landing with RecruitMilitary? Any words of wisdom from you on your side?
Don't wait. Again, like everyone said, we see it. I still see it today, even though I talked to buddies, I spoke to months ago. Hey, bud, you're getting out, right? Get ready. So don't wait. Again, I started 6 months out, and it still felt very nerve-wracking, very aggressive. So if you start early, beat David. 2 years out. Start talking to people, network. Even if it's passive, 2 years out, year and a half out, just start the conversation. So by the time you get out, again, you're already a pro at transitioning. You should have landed your job with all those informational interviews that Lucas talked about that you did during that time. So that's the biggest takeaway. Do not wait.
Absolutely. And then as for me, it's something that I love to remind people. I think we may be intimidated to do this when leaving service. Don't be afraid to be yourself, to let your personality shine. I think some service members, I've never been one, as much as I've tried to shut up and just chill in the background.
Not possible.
I was given the name Gabby for a reason, apparently, but I've always had my personality shine. And that's been something that I've let shine through when it comes through interviews, when it comes to networking, just when it comes to just speaking. I didn't even know that I was networking when I was just having conversations with transitioning service members that I then found opportunities through later on down the road because they remembered a conversation that we had just shooting the breeze on the side. So don't be afraid, especially when you're speaking to those employers, those organizations, to let that personality shine, because that is also, besides the certifications, besides your skill set, who you are as a person is also going to set you apart. So don't be afraid to let that personality shine through. Be yourself. So wrapping up, thank you guys again so much. I knew this was going to be an amazing episode full of absolutely outstanding information, but having you both here, David, to tell your ongoing story right now, and Lucas to provide all that information that our transitioning service members need really is going to make a difference for everyone out there. So thank you both for joining us today. And to our audience, if you're thinking about that next step, this is your sign to start that conversation, to do that networking, to sign up and apply for SkillBridge. Take this as your sign, and be sure to follow RecruitMilitary. Make a RecruitMilitary.com profile to access all those free resources, all those programs, all those amazing resume webinars that David is talking about to really get you set up for success. We're here for you. you don't know what you don't know until you find out. So we're here for all of you guys. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us for today's episode of Recruit Military Live. And we will see you next time.